The dust coated everything, a fine, gritty blanket that settled over the entire farm. It caked my worn work boots, clung stubbornly to my faded jeans, and powdered the brim of my old, sweat-stained baseball cap. The sun, a brutal, unforgiving presence in the Oklahoma sky, beat down on me, turning the air into a shimmering haze as I stooped once again to push another tiny corn seed into the dry, cracked earth. My hands, calloused and grimy from years of farm work, moved with a practiced, almost desperate rhythm, a stark and painful contrast to the smooth, perfectly manicured fingers that had just pointed at me and erupted in a cascade of mocking laughter. "Are you serious, Mark?" Sarah's voice, a sound that had once been the sweetest melody I knew, was now a sharp, cruel crescendo that cut through the oppressive heat. She stood by the rusty, dented pickup truck, an expensive designer purse clutched tightly in her hand, looking utterly, magnificently out of place against the raw, struggling backdrop of our failing farm. "You're actually going to plant all this by hand? In this heat? It's pathetic. This farm is a lost cause, Mark, just like you are." Her words, delivered with a biting certainty, hit me harder than the relentless midday sun. We'd been together for 5 years, a lifetime in our small forgotten town. She'd always said she loved the simple life, the quiet nights under the vast, star-dusted sky, but the harsh reality of failing crops, the relentless burden of mounting debts, and the endless back-breaking work had slowly, meticulously chipped away at her patience, finally revealing a contempt I hadn't dared to imagine. My father, a man whose spirit was as weathered and worn as the ancient, crumbling barns around us, watched from the shaded porch, his shoulders slumped, his gaze fixed on the ground. He'd poured every ounce of his life, every dream, into this unforgiving land, and now it was unmistakably slipping through our fingers. My mother, bless her ever-optimistic heart, was inside, no doubt trying to stretch what little we had into a semblance of a meal. I swallowed hard, the bitter taste of despair and humiliation coating my tongue, ignoring the sudden hot sting in my eyes. "Someone has to try, Sarah," I managed to say, my voice hoarse, barely a whisper. "This is our last shot. If this corn doesn't come in, we lose everything. Our home, our history." She scoffed, a brittle, dismissive sound that echoed across the silent, thirsty fields, a sound that would replay in my mind for weeks to come. "Well, good luck with your dirt-filled dreams, Mark. I'm not sticking around to watch you fail." With a final, utterly dismissive glance, she climbed into her gleaming car. The engine roared to life, a deafening symbol of her departure, leaving behind a thick cloud of dust and the piercing echo of her laughter in my ears. I watched her go, a profound, hollow ache settling deep in my chest. The sun continued its relentless assault, but now a new kind of fire ignited within me, a stubborn, burning resolve. It wasn't just about saving the farm anymore, it was about proving them all, especially her, irrevocably wrong. The days bled into weeks, each one a grueling, relentless test of endurance against the elements and my own limitations. The Oklahoma sun remained an oppressive, ever-present force, and my muscles screamed in protest with every swing of the old hoe, every single seed I carefully pressed into the parched, unyielding earth. Dad watched me from a distance, his face a complex mask of worry, etched deep with the lines of decades of hard labor and recent anxieties. He'd tried to talk me out of it countless times, his voice laced with the heavy resignation of a man who had seen too many seasons of struggle. "Son," he'd often say, his voice weary with defeat, "it ain't worth it. We're beat. Let's just sell what we can and move on. Start fresh, somewhere else." But Sarah's cruel laughter, sharp and clear, echoed incessantly in the back of my mind, a constant, irritating fuel to my stubborn, burgeoning resolve. I absolutely could not let her cutting words be the final verdict on my life, on our family's proud, albeit struggling legacy. One sweltering evening, I sat him down on the porch swing, the wood creaking under our combined weight, and explained my new plan in painstaking detail. It was a new, intensive planting method I'd spent countless nights researching online, focusing on maximizing the yield in smaller, carefully managed plots. Crucially, I also outlined a direct-to-market strategy, bypassing the greedy middlemen who had historically taken the lion's share of our hard-earned profits. He remained deeply skeptical, his years of ingrained traditional farming practices making him inherently wary of any newfangled ideas. Yet he saw the fierce, unyielding fire in my eyes, the unwavering determination that mirrored his own youthful spirit. He sighed, a sound that carried the weight of years, but then offered a hesitant, calloused hand. "All right, son," he finally conceded, a tiny, almost imperceptible flicker of hope in his tired gaze. "Let's see what you can do. Prove me wrong." His support, even if still tinged with deep-seated doubt, was a much-needed balm on my weary soul, a silent acknowledgement of my desperate fight. Then, one sweltering morning, as the sun began its ascent, painting the sky in fiery hues, a small, quiet miracle unfolded before my eyes. Tiny, delicate green shoots, barely perceptible, began to tentatively break through the seemingly impenetrable sun-baked soil. They were so fragile, so vulnerable, yet vibrated with an incredible, undeniable promise. It was the very first undeniable sign of life, a tangible reward for the endless, back-breaking hours of toil and sweat that had drenched my body and spirit. I walked slowly through the painstakingly planted rows, my heart swelling with a pure, unadulterated joy I hadn't felt in years, perhaps ever. Dad, drawn by some invisible force, came out to the field, his eyes widening in genuine surprise as he took in the sight. A rare, almost forgotten smile touched his lips, transforming his usually grim face. "Well, I'll be," he muttered, running a calloused, trembling finger gently over a delicate young leaf. "Looks like you might be onto something here, son. I'm truly amazed." Mom, her face radiating with an almost blinding relief, joined us moments later, her hands pressed to her mouth in a gesture of awe. For the first time in a very long time, a profound sense of hope permeated the air around our small, struggling farmhouse. The comforting, familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the rich, earthy aroma of the sprouting corn, a comforting, almost sacred blend that spoke of resilience, of unwavering faith, and the very real possibility of a brighter, sustainable future. The initial small success didn't just ease the immediate fear, it ignited a powerful, renewed determination within me. I worked even harder, tending to the young, vulnerable plants with meticulous, almost obsessive care, ensuring they had every drop of water they needed and relentless protection from the myriad pests that sought to destroy them. I spent my evenings hunched over old books and a flickering computer screen, researching better irrigation techniques and meticulously studying market trends, utterly determined to make this desperate venture an undeniable, resounding success. As the corn grew taller, greener, and remarkably healthier than anyone in the entire county had seen in years, its vibrant life a stark contrast to the parched landscape, word began to spread like wildfire. Neighbors, who had once offered only pitying, sympathetic glances and hushed whispers about our impending failure, now stopped by our farm, their eyes filled with an undeniable curiosity and a palpable, almost envious hint of awe. They peppered me with questions about my unusual methods, about the crazy kid planting corn by hand, as I had come to be known. Some were genuinely interested, their own farms struggling, looking for a glimmer of hope. Others were merely skeptical, their arms crossed, silently waiting for the inevitable failure they still expected to materialize. Even Sarah, despite her earlier disdain, eventually heard the whispers. A mutual friend, seemingly innocent, mentioned seeing our thriving fields, the undeniable buzz around our surprising, unconventional success spreading through the tight-knit community. I couldn't help but imagine the look on her face, the disbelief, and perhaps even a flicker of regret that must have crossed her features. It wasn't about revenge, not entirely, but the thought of her realizing the profound potential she had so easily dismissed, so cruelly mocked, undeniably fueled me further, pushing me to work even harder. The local newspaper, a small-town weekly, even sent a curious reporter and a photographer to do a story on our unexpected, almost miraculous success. The article, prominently featured on the front page, was triumphantly titled, "Old-Fashioned Grit Yields Modern Miracles." It featured a striking picture of me standing proudly in the middle of our flourishing, verdant cornfield, my face tanned and weathered by the sun, but my eyes shining with a deep, quiet sense of accomplishment. If you're enjoying this story and eager to see what happens next, Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the rest of Mark's incredible journey. Harvest time arrived, a golden, vibrant culmination of months of relentless, back-breaking effort under the blazing sun. The yield was, quite simply, beyond our wildest, most optimistic expectations. Golden ears of corn, each one plump, perfect, and bursting with life, filled our old creaking barn to the very brim, spilling out into every available space. The sight was both exhilarating and profoundly humbling, a tangible testament to unwavering perseverance. Dad, standing amidst the bounty, shook his head slowly in disbelief, a wide, genuine grin splitting his usually stoic face. "I'll be darned, son," he chuckled, his voice thick with emotion, as he slapped me firmly on the back. "You actually did it. You proved everyone wrong, even me." But even amidst the overwhelming triumph, the sweet smell of success, there remained a stubborn contingent of doubters. Established farmers in the area, accustomed to their large-scale, impersonal and highly mechanized operations, scoffed openly at our comparatively small-scale success. They muttered cynically about market saturation, about the unsustainability of our primitive methods, and how it was just a temporary anomaly. Some, even with thinly veiled resentment, accused us of simply getting lucky, of a fluke weather pattern, refusing to acknowledge the sheer hard work and innovative thinking involved. I, however, consciously chose to ignore their negativity, their bitter predictions, focusing instead on the meticulously crafted next phase of my plan, selling directly to local restaurants and a network of burgeoning farmers' markets, emphasizing the unparalleled quality, freshness, and unique story of our hand-grown organic corn. The first few weeks of selling were undeniably tough, a new kind of grind that tested my patience and resolve. I drove the old patched-up pickup truck to every single restaurant and farmer's market within a 100-mile radius, its engine groaning in protest. At each stop, I tried to convince skeptical chefs and wary customers that our corn, though slightly more expensive, was undeniably worth the premium. Many were hesitant, accustomed to the cheaper, mass-produced options from larger distributors. They didn't understand the difference, the care that went into each ear. But slowly, meticulously, word began to spread, not just about the corn, but about the unique flavor, the superior taste, and the undeniable quality of our lovingly hand-grown product. Chefs raved about its surprising sweetness, its perfect texture, and customers at the farmers' markets began to line up specifically for a taste of our miracle corn, their curiosity piqued by the newspaper article and word of mouth. The demand grew steadily, organically, like the corn itself. As the orders piled up, I hired a few local teenagers, kids I'd grown up with, to help with the harvesting and the demanding hot work of selling at the various markets. This provided much-needed income for our small, struggling community, a ripple effect of our success. Dad, who had been initially hesitant about my direct-to-market approach, became my most enthusiastic and effective salesman, his years of knowing practically everyone in the area proving absolutely invaluable. He'd charm customers with stories of the farm, his eyes twinkling with pride. Mum, with her quiet strength, meticulously managed the finances, her careful record-keeping ensuring we stayed on track, every dollar accounted for. Our small, once-struggling family farm was, before our very eyes, transforming into a thriving, respected small business, a beacon of hope in a challenging economic landscape. One bustling Saturday morning, at the peak of the farmers' market rush, I looked up from weighing a bag of corn and saw a familiar, almost ghost-like face in the surging crowd. Sarah stood a little ways off from our overflowing stall, her eyes wide, almost disbelieving, as she watched the flurry of eager customers practically clamoring to buy our corn. She looked different than I remembered, less polished, perhaps a little more subdued, but also, surprisingly, more thoughtful. I continued helping a customer, my heart suddenly pounding a frantic rhythm in my chest, a mixture of apprehension and a strange, unfamiliar anticipation. When the immediate rush finally subsided, she slowly, tentatively approached the stall, a hesitant, almost fragile smile touching her lips. "Mark," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper, a stark contrast to the loud, confident tones I remembered. I can't believe it." She gestured with a trembling hand to the bustling crowd, the overflowing baskets of golden corn, the small, proudly displayed sign bearing our farm's resurrected name. "You actually did it. You really, truly did it." I met her gaze, years of stored-up hurt and simmering resentment, bubbling just beneath the surface, threatening to overwhelm me. "Yeah, Sarah," I replied, my voice carefully neutral, betraying none of the turmoil within. I did. The air between us was thick with unspoken words, with memories both painful and bittersweet. If you're captivated by this unexpected turn of events and eager to see how Mark navigates this new dynamic, make sure to subscribe to the channel for the next chapter. Sarah lingered at the stall, not leaving even as the crowd thinned. She started asking questions. Not just polite inquiries, but deep, probing questions about our farming methods, about the intricacies of building the direct-to-consumer business from the ground up. She seemed genuinely interested, a far cry from the dismissive, almost contemptuous attitude she'd shown just months ago. Her curiosity felt real, not feigned. She told me about her life in the city, the demanding, relentless long hours she worked, the constant pressure to perform, and the surprising feeling of emptiness that gnawed at her, despite the outward appearance of success. There was a raw vulnerability in her eyes I hadn't seen before, a quiet plea for understanding. We talked for a long time that day, the years of silence and bitterness slowly, cautiously dissolving between us. She apologized sincerely for her harsh words, for her cutting laughter, admitting with a quiet shame that she hadn't truly understood the profound depth of my connection to the farm, the sheer resilience of my spirit, or the immense challenges we faced. I listened, a part of me, the wounded part, wanting to hold on to the anger, to cling to the bitter memory of her dismissive laughter. But another part, the part that had once loved her deeply, that remembered the girl she used to be, felt a flicker of understanding, a grudging sense of empathy. The pain was still there, but it was now dulled by the blossoming success of the farm and the unexpected fragile bridge of conversation. Over the next few months, to my quiet astonishment, Sarah started visiting the farm regularly. She didn't just visit, she pitched in, her designer clothes replaced by practical jeans and sturdy boots. She helped out tirelessly at the farmer's market, her natural charm and genuine enthusiasm winning over customers who remembered her from her brief, glamorous appearances years ago, now seeing a new, more grounded side of her. She even offered her impressive marketing skills, her background in city advertising, proving to be an unexpected and invaluable boon. She helped us create a simple yet highly effective website, designed with clear calls to action and beautiful photos of our corn, and established a vibrant social media presence, telling the story of our farm. This expanded our reach far beyond the local area, attracting customers and wholesale inquiries from neighboring states, something I never could have accomplished alone. Working alongside her day in and day out, whether it was sorting corn, loading trucks, or brainstorming new marketing angles, I began to see a profoundly different, more grounded side of Sarah. She was no longer the detached city girl. She was a hard-working, dedicated woman who had perhaps been lost in the superficiality and relentless pace of city life and was now, slowly, genuinely finding her way back to something more real, more meaningful. We didn't talk about rekindling our old romantic relationship. The wounds were still too fresh, too complex for that kind of discussion. But a new kind of connection was undeniably forming between us, a strong bond built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and a growing sense of trust. We were a team, united by a common goal. The farm continued its incredible ascent, our weekly earnings now consistently far exceeding the initial $200,000 mark she had once scoffed at as utterly impossible. It wasn't just about the money, though. That was certainly life-changing, alleviating years of crushing debt and financial stress. It was about the profound satisfaction of building something truly meaningful with my own two hands, of proving my inherent worth, not just to Sarah or to the community, but most importantly to myself and to my family. Every flourishing stalk, every successful sale was a quiet victory. Looking out over the vast, shimmering golden fields of corn, now stretching further than I had ever dared to imagine possible, bathed in the soft, ethereal glow of the setting sun, I felt a profound, almost overwhelming sense of peace. The echoing laughter that had once haunted my dreams and fueled my darkest days, now served as a powerful, distant reminder of how incredibly far I had come. Not just as a farmer who had saved his family's legacy, but as a person who had overcome profound personal pain. My relationship with my parents, forged in the crucible of adversity, had strengthened beyond measure, bonded by the shared struggle, the anxieties of potential ruin, and the ultimate exhilarating triumph. We were a unit, stronger and more unified than ever before, a true family business, and with Sarah by my side, not as a scornful ex-girlfriend or a painful memory, but as a supportive partner, a trusted friend, and an invaluable part of the growing farm family, the future felt brighter, more expansive, and more filled with promise than I had ever dared to dream. The farm, once a crumbling symbol of impending failure and defeat, a place that felt like a burden, was now, irrevocably, a vibrant testament to resilience, to unwavering hard work, and to the truly unexpected rewards of believing fiercely in yourself, even when no one else does. It wasn't just about planting corn, it was about planting the tenacious seeds of hope, of enduring perseverance, and of cultivating a prosperous future rooted firmly in the very land I had almost tragically given up on. The dust still coated everything sometimes, coating my boots and settling on the corn leaves, but now it felt like a badge of honor, a symbolic layer of hard-won success. It was a symbol of the enduring strength of this place and the indomitable spirit of the people who called it home. The air, once heavy with despair, now hummed with the quiet satisfaction of a dream realized, a future built from scratch, and a life truly lived. Thank you for following Mark's inspiring journey of perseverance and redemption. If you enjoyed this story of triumph against the odds and found yourself rooting for Mark, please subscribe to the channel for more compelling narratives and incredible transformations.